The monthly barbecue at our supervisor's house was usually my favorite Saturday. Good food, cold beers, and a break from the constant noise of the factory floor. 8 years at the same manufacturing plant had made these people more than coworkers. They were family. My wife had been unusually eager to attend this time, though these gatherings had never interested her before. Now I understood why as I stood frozen in the hallway, her voice drifting clearly from the kitchen where she thought I couldn't hear. "You guys just don't understand what it's like," she sighed dramatically to my supervisor's wife and 2 other women from accounting. Working at that fancy real estate office with all these successful agents, then coming home to, well, you know. "What do you mean?" someone asked. "Let's be honest. He's way below my league." Her words cut through me like the industrial saws I maintained daily. "Don't get me wrong. He's dependable. Bills get paid. But I studied business administration. I was supposed to be dating executives, not spending my 30s with a factory worker." The laughter that followed burned worse than any welding accident I'd suffered. I'd spent years believing we were partners. Equal. Now I understood all those subtle comments about my clothes being so blue-collar, and how she'd stopped bringing me to her office parties. I stepped back silently, muscle memory from years of navigating dangerous equipment helping me move without detection. My mind raced, but my expression revealed nothing as I rejoined the men by the grill. 15 minutes later, she emerged from the kitchen, sliding her hand into mine like nothing had happened. On the drive home, she scrolled through her phone while I processed what I'd heard. The puzzle pieces clicked. Her increased work hours. The unexplained expenses on her credit card. The girls' nights that left her smelling of unfamiliar cologne. "Good time tonight?" she asked absently. "Enlightening," I replied, my tone neutral. That night, I waited until her breathing steadied into sleep before carefully removing her phone from the charger. The passcode was our anniversary, something I'd never needed before tonight. Trust had always been our foundation. Or so I thought. What I found confirmed my suspicions. Flirtatious messages with her office manager. Screenshots of my bank statements sent to her friends with mocking comments. A folder of housing listings far above our price range labeled "Future Home" without deadweight. Instead of confronting her, I took photos of everything with my own phone. The factory had taught me valuable lessons: safety before action, assess before approach, and never rush when precision matters. This situation required the same careful handling. In the morning, I kissed her goodbye as she left for work, her expensive perfume lingering in our modest home. I called in sick for the first time in 3 years, then made 2 important calls, one to a credit union for a separate account, another to a lawyer. She thought I was beneath her league. Maybe I was. But in the game we were now playing, she had no idea I'd just become the rival team's owner. For the next 2 weeks, I maintained the perfect facade of ignorance. Each morning, I left for my shift at the factory. Each evening, I returned home with the same tired smile I'd worn for years. But inside, something had fundamentally changed. I was gathering intelligence with military precision. The credit card statements arrived on Thursday. While she was at her weekly hair appointment, I spread them across our kitchen table. The evidence was more damning than I'd anticipated. Lunch charges at high-end restaurants on workdays. A $420 purchase at a men's boutique. 3 separate spa days in a single month. Our joint account had become her personal slush fund. Most revealing was the $180 charge from a downtown jewelry store. Our anniversary had passed months ago, and my birthday was still distant. The purchase date matched one of her working late nights. I called the store, posing as someone who needed to verify a gift purchase for a corporate client. The saleswoman helpfully confirmed they'd sold a men's watch that day, stainless steel, minimalist design. I'd never received such a watch. The next morning, I planted a small voice-activated recorder under the passenger seat of her car. Excessive? Perhaps. But I needed concrete proof before making my next move. Factory work teaches you to verify measurements twice before cutting once. That weekend, she mentioned an upcoming team dinner on Wednesday. I nodded casually, suggesting she enjoy herself. When Wednesday arrived, I tracked her location through our shared phone plan. The restaurant was indeed real, but she stayed only 30 minutes before moving to an address in the upscale part of town. I used my lunch break the following day to drive by that address. An apartment complex with a doorman and fountain. Definitely not a place for team dinners. The recorder provided the missing pieces. conversations with her office manager about their connection, plans for her upcoming promotion interview, and most significantly, a phone call to her mother. Yes, Mom, the interview's next week. The regional manager practically guaranteed I'll get it. The salary's nearly double. No, I haven't told him yet. What's the point? Once I secure the position, I'll have enough saved to move out. Of course I feel something. We've been together for years. But let's be realistic. He was fine when I had limited options. Now I'm moving up in the world. That weekend, I made 3 strategic moves. First, I opened a separate bank account at a different credit union. Second, I transferred exactly half of our savings into it. Not a penny more, despite the temptation. Third, I removed her as an authorized user on my primary credit card, citing a system upgrade when the company called to verify. The factory had promoted me to maintenance supervisor last year, a fact she often overlooked when comparing our careers. The raise had been substantial, but I'd kept our lifestyle unchanged, routing the extra income into savings. Savings she clearly had plans for. I checked our home's deed that night while she slept. As I suspected, only my name appeared. Her credit had been too damaged from college debt when we purchased it, and we'd never updated the paperwork. Another failure of her grand planning. The following week, her promotion interview arrived. She left that morning in her best outfit, the one I'd worked overtime to help purchase. The confident kiss she gave me at the door felt like a farewell she thought only she understood. "Good luck today," I said. "Luck is for people who need it," she replied with a smirk. I smiled back, thinking about the recorder still capturing every word in her car and the meeting I had scheduled with a divorce attorney during my lunch break. She wasn't the only one making power moves today. She came home that evening practically floating. The promotion was hers. Regional sales coordinator with a company car and expense account. Her eyes gleamed as she detailed every moment of the interview, completely oblivious to the meeting I'd had with a divorce attorney 3 hours earlier. "We should celebrate," she announced, pulling an expensive bottle of wine from her bag. "This changes everything for us." The irony wasn't lost on me. For her, us had already expired. I played along, toasting her success while mentally cataloging the lawyer's advice. Document everything, secure personal documents, prepare for possible financial retaliation. 2 days later, the first test arrived. She swept into the kitchen where I was making coffee before my shift. "I've been thinking," she began, tone carefully casual. "With my promotion, we should refinance the house. Interest rates are down, and we could pull out some equity." "What would we use the equity for?" I asked, stirring my coffee with manufactured innocence. "Oh, renovations, maybe start looking at investment properties." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Just building our future." "Our future? Right. Let me think about it," I replied. "Big financial decisions shouldn't be rushed." Her expression flickered with annoyance before resetting to sweet persuasion. This wasn't the eager agreement she'd expected. For 8 years, I'd trusted her judgment on financial matters despite her business degree. Not anymore. The next week, she escalated. Over dinner, she slid a folder across the table containing refinance documents, already filled with my information. "I took the initiative," she explained. "All you need to do is sign. My new position gives us leverage with the bank." I flipped through the papers slowly. The terms were exactly as she'd described, but with one crucial detail she hadn't mentioned. The new loan would have both our names, unlike the current mortgage and only mine. "I'll need to review these more carefully," I said, closing the folder. "What's there to review? It's a great rate." Her voice tightened. "Do you not trust my judgment suddenly?" I looked up, meeting her gaze steadily. Trust works both ways. Why the rush? That night, she didn't come to bed until after midnight. The next morning, I found a notification from our bank. She'd attempted to transfer $5,000 from our joint savings to her personal account, but was denied due to daily transfer limits. 2 could play at strategic planning. I called in a favor from a coworker who'd become a realtor on the side. He pulled the transaction history of her office manager. 3 months ago, he'd purchased a condo downtown, the same building where she'd visited after her team dinner. Time to adjust my approach. That evening, I arrived home with takeout from her favorite restaurant, a peace offering on the surface. "I've been thinking about the refinance," I said as we ate. "But before we do that, I need to pay off my truck loan. The bank mentioned it would improve our rate." She perked up immediately. "How much do you need?" We could use the joint savings. About $8,000, I replied, knowing we had just over $12,000 in that account. I'll transfer it tomorrow, she said, the perfect picture of supportive partnership. I nodded appreciatively while mentally thanking her for confirming what I already knew. She needed that money for her escape plan. The money I'd already moved to my private account was safely beyond her reach. The next day, I submitted paperwork for a week of vacation time, the first in 2 years. When approved, I quietly arranged for a locksmith to change our home locks during her working hours the following week. I also scheduled a home appraisal, telling the company it was for refinancing purposes. Each night, I downloaded the latest recordings from her car. Each day, I watched her growing frustration as her attempts to access our full savings were thwarted by technical issues with the bank system, issues created by the account freeze I'd requested. The game of financial chess continued, each of us moving pieces across the board. The difference was simple. I knew we were playing, while she still thought I was just a pawn. The date circled on our kitchen calendar had finally arrived, our 5th wedding anniversary. 5 years since I'd promised my life to someone who now considered me a temporary inconvenience on her path to something better. The timing couldn't have been more perfect. She'd been increasingly agitated over the past week as her financial maneuvers continued to hit unexpected roadblocks. The technical issues with our joint account, the refinance paperwork that kept getting delayed, my sudden interest in reviewing our credit card statements together. For our anniversary, she suggested a dinner at the steakhouse where we'd celebrated our engagement. Her treat, she insisted. The same restaurant where the recorder had captured her having lunch with the office manager 2 weeks prior. I agreed with enthusiasm that must have seemed genuine to her. That morning, she left for work with a quick kiss and promises for a special evening. The moment her car disappeared down the street, I began executing the plan I'd been crafting for weeks. First, I called the locksmith to confirm he'd arrive at noon. Next, I retrieved the documents from my truck's hidden compartment, financial statements, voice recordings transcribed by a service, copies of her text messages, and most importantly, the divorce papers my attorney had prepared. At the factory, I'd learned that timing was everything. Too early or too late, and catastrophic failure could result. Today's timeline had to be flawless. By 5:30, I was dressed for dinner and waiting in the living room when she arrived home. She seemed surprised to find me ready before her. Usually, I was the one rushing to change after work. She disappeared upstairs to prepare, clearly unaware that this anniversary would indeed be memorable, but not in the way she imagined. At the restaurant, the hostess led us to a corner table, private, but with a clear view of the entrance. I ordered a bottle of champagne, playing the role of doting husband one final time. She seemed almost uncomfortable with my attentiveness, perhaps feeling a twinge of guilt about what she was planning. After our appetizers arrived, she placed her hand over mine, her expression shifting to one I recognized from years of marriage, the look that preceded requests for expensive purchases or difficult conversations. "I've been thinking a lot about us," she began, voice carefully modulated, "about our future and what we both want." I nodded encouragingly, allowing her the floor. This was her moment. Might as well let her have the opening act. "We've been together a long time," she continued, withdrawing her hand to reach for her purse. "But people change. Goals change." The restaurant door opened, and right on schedule, her office manager walked in. Our eyes met briefly, his widening in shock at seeing me seated with her. He quickly turned and exited, clearly not prepared for this encounter. Her back was to the door, so she noticed nothing. "I think we should separate," she finally said, pulling out folded papers from her purse. "I've outgrown this marriage. You must have felt it too." I took a slow sip of champagne, letting the moment stretch uncomfortably. "Funny," I finally replied, my voice calm. I was thinking the same thing. Confusion flashed across her face. This wasn't the response she'd rehearsed for. The emotional pleading, the desperate attempts to save our marriage. Before she could recover, I reached into my jacket and pulled out my own set of papers. "Divorce petition," I explained, sliding them across the table. "Already filed yesterday. You'll be served officially tomorrow, but I thought you deserved to know tonight." Her mouth opened, but no words emerged. I continued, keeping my voice low and controlled. "I also thought you might want these." I placed printed screenshots of her text messages with the office manager on the table. And this, a bank statement showing her attempted transfers. "Oh, and this might interest you. The home appraisal showing the current value, significantly higher than when we purchased it. How did you? She finally managed. Does it matter? What matters is what happens next. I gestured to the divorce papers. Everything's fair. Asset division according to state law. The house stays with me since it's in my name. You keep your car and personal possessions. Her face had lost all color, the carefully applied makeup now emphasizing her shock rather than her features. You can't just. I already have, I interrupted, standing and placing cash on the table to cover our barely touched meal. The locks have been changed. Your clothes and essentials are packed in suitcases in the garage. The code is the same, for now. As I turned to leave, I paused, looking back at her one final time. By the way, you're right. You are out of my league. I play in a league where loyalty actually means something. The next morning, I woke to 17 missed calls and 34 text messages. I read each one, watching her emotional journey from rage to disbelief to desperate negotiation. The final message arrived at 3:17 a.m. We need to talk. This isn't over. I didn't respond. Factory work teaches you when to engage and when to stand clear of dangerous machinery. Right now, she was all spinning gears and exposed blades. At 9:30, my phone rang again. This time, I answered. Where am I supposed to go? Her voice wavered between anger and panic. You can't just throw me out on the street. Your mother's place is 15 minutes away, I replied calmly. Or perhaps your office manager has space in his new condo. The sharp intake of breath confirmed she hadn't known I'd discovered that particular detail. This isn't fair, she hissed. I contributed to that house too. Did you? Let's review. The down payment came from my savings before we met. The mortgage is solely in my name. Your name appears nowhere on any property document, which my lawyer confirmed yesterday. I paid bills. I bought furniture. Her voice rose with each word. And I've calculated the exact amount, $22, for 67 over 5 years. The divorce settlement offers you $25,000. You're actually coming out ahead financially. The silence stretched as she processed this. I could almost hear the wheels turning as she realized how thoroughly I'd outmaneuvered her. This isn't about money, she finally said, her tone shifting to something softer. We can work through this. Everyone makes mistakes. True, I agreed. My mistake was believing you meant your vows. By afternoon, reality had fully settled in. Her mother called, her voice tight with controlled fury. She's devastated. Is this really how you want things to end? After 5 years. I didn't end it, I replied. I just refused to be the last one to know it was over. 3 days later, a formal letter arrived from an attorney she'd retained. It outlined demands far exceeding what any court would grant. Half the house value despite her name not being on the deed, alimony despite our relatively short marriage, even a portion of my retirement account. My lawyer called it wishful thinking on expensive letterhead. I continued my shifts at the factory, ignoring the sympathetic glances from coworkers who'd heard fragments of the story. At night, I slept better than I had in months. The constant need to monitor and analyze every interaction had been exhausting in ways I hadn't fully recognized until it ended. 2 weeks into our separation, I received a text with an unexpected tone. Can we meet? Just to talk. No lawyers. Against my better judgment, I agreed to coffee at a neutral location. She arrived looking nothing like the polished professional she'd cultivated at work. The designer clothes were replaced by simple jeans and a sweater. Her makeup was minimal. This was the woman I'd originally fallen for, not the status-conscious climber she'd become. For a moment, doubt flickered. Then I remembered the recordings, the messages to her friends, the words that couldn't be unsaid. He's way below my league. I've been doing a lot of thinking, she began. I made terrible mistakes. Unforgivable ones. But what we had was real, at least in the beginning. I sipped my coffee, saying nothing. My promotion. It's not working out, she continued, staring into her untouched drink. The regional manager who pushed for me left the company last week. The new director is bringing in his own team. The pieces clicked. Her safety net had disintegrated. The office manager, sensing her precarious position, had likely distanced himself. Without the promotion, her financial independence had evaporated. I'm staying with Mom, she admitted. On her couch. At 34 years old. Despite everything, a part of me ached for her. But sympathy wasn't the same as weakness. What do you want from this conversation? I asked directly. A second chance, she whispered. We could try counseling. I set my cup down and looked at her, really looked at her. The woman who'd plotted her exit while lying beside me each night, who'd mocked me to her friends, who'd planned to take half of everything I'd built. No, I said simply. Some leagues don't allow second tryouts. As I walked away, I realized the maintenance man from the factory had finally performed some essential maintenance on himself, removing a defective part that had been slowly damaging the entire machine. 6 months passed like a shift change at the factory, simultaneously gradual and sudden. The divorce had finalized with surprising efficiency once her lawyer realized the futility of their excessive demands. The settlement matched exactly what I'd initially offered, fair, legally sound, and completely on my terms. The house felt different now, not empty, but unburdened. I'd repainted the living room, replaced the furniture she'd chosen with pieces that actually fit my taste, and converted the spare bedroom into a home gym. Small changes that represented a larger transformation. At work, an unexpected opportunity emerged. The plant was implementing a new automated maintenance system, and they needed someone who understood both the machinery and the workforce to oversee the transition. My promotion to maintenance operations manager came with a substantial raise and, more importantly, respect from both management and the floor workers. I used some of my new income to enroll in evening engineering classes at the community college. The instructor, impressed by my practical knowledge, offered to mentor me toward a full degree. Years of fixing other people's mistakes had given me a perspective that textbook-trained engineers often lacked. On a Friday afternoon, I pulled into the parking lot of Wilson's Grocery to pick up supplies for the weekend. The lot was crowded with after-work shoppers, forcing me to park near the back. As I grabbed a cart, I noticed a familiar figure in the store's uniform, collecting scattered carts from the lot. She didn't see me at first, focused on her task. The designer clothes were gone, replaced by the store's standard blue vest. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, the expensive highlights grown out. When she finally looked up and our eyes met, she froze. For a moment, we both stood motionless in the autumn afternoon light. Then, surprisingly, she wheeled her line of carts toward me rather than retreating. "Hi," she said simply. "Hi," I replied, studying her face. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something that looked like resignation. "How have you been?" she asked, the question awkward but seemingly genuine. "Good," I answered honestly. "Really good, actually. You." She gestured to her uniform with a half-hearted smile. Living the dream. An uncomfortable silence settled between us before she continued. "The real estate office let most of us go. Market downturn. The manager," she paused. "He got transferred to another branch. Didn't take anyone with him." I nodded, unsurprised. Loyalty had never been her strong suit. Why would she expect it from others? "Still at your mom's?" I asked, already knowing the answer from mutual acquaintances. "Yeah, trying to save for a security deposit somewhere. Turns out apartments are expensive when you're starting from scratch." The wind picked up, sending a plastic bag tumbling across the lot. We both watched it, grateful for the momentary distraction. "I heard about your promotion," she said finally. "And the classes. That's great." The absence of condescension in her voice was noticeable. Perhaps humility wasn't just something she was performing. "Thanks," I replied. "It's been challenging, but good." She glanced over her shoulder as a manager appeared at the store entrance. "I should get back. Break's over." As she turned to go, she hesitated. "You know what's ironic? You were never below my league. I just couldn't see what league you were actually playing in." I watched her return to her cart collection. The woman who once declared herself too good for a factory worker, now gathering shopping carts for minimum wage. Life had a way of recalibrating false perspectives. Inside the store, I filled my cart with ingredients for the dinner I was hosting tomorrow, my parents' and sister's family coming to see the house renovations. As I checked out, I noticed her at the customer service desk, head bowed as a shopper berated her about a coupon policy. I felt no satisfaction in her downfall, no vindictive pleasure. Just the quiet certainty that comes from knowing you've survived something that was designed to destroy you. In the parking lot, I loaded my groceries while glancing at the evening sky. The same stars would shine over both of us tonight. Me in the home I'd protected, her on her mother's couch. Different leagues entirely, but not the one she'd imagined.
Our story has come to an end. If you've made it this far, how about subscribing to our channel? It helps us immensely. I've selected 2 other videos for you that I'm sure you'll enjoy. Feel free to click on them. I'll be waiting for you in the next story. See you soon.